Welcome back to another episode of ACX University. I'm Hannah Wall.
I'm Scott Jacoby.
And today we're talking about networking events and conferences. It seems as soon as the weather warms up, everyone heads out of the narrator booth or out of their writing cave and heads out into the field to get excited about their craft again and back into audiobook land.
Yeah, absolutely. And this episode is very well timed because Hannah and I each just attended two different audiobook events. I was at VO Atlanta, which was a narrator and producer-facing event. Hannah was at California Dreaming, which was an author-facing event. And I think it'll really give us a good way to talk to you about all the different options you have and with some recent experience of ours.
Yeah, there's never a wrong time in your career to attend an event or a conference to really get out there and meet your peers and learn what's new in the industry. So whether you're a novice who's looking for some new connections and some grounding to get started on, or whether you're an industry pro looking to revive your passion, reconnect with your peers, conferences are great at any point in your career.
Yeah, and today we're going to cover large conferences and bigger events. We will touch briefly on some of the smaller style events, one-on-one trainings and stuff like that, but a lot of times you can find those at the larger conferences. So today we're going to be focusing on just sort of a wide swath of what you might encounter out at these events.
And I think a lot of the tips really apply to not just large conferences, but to small conferences as well. So let's get into it. So you decided to go to an event. Before you decide, I think one of the most important things that you can do is set some goals for yourself. Scott, what kind of goals should the audience be setting for themselves when they think about going to a conference?
Yeah, so we always talk about this whenever we're giving you a large project to undertake, right? Starting at the beginning and goal setting and knowing what you're hoping to achieve is really going to help you make the most of your time and your money that you're spending going to these conferences. So some things you might be looking to do are networking. Are you looking to make some new connections in your industry, maybe with somebody that might hire you for a job or somebody that you might want to hire for a job? Getting your next gig directly out of that conference. Maybe you're meeting directors or producers or trying to get published right at that conference. Are you continuing your education? Are you trying to learn about your industry, trying to build skills, just trying to get yourself better situated to move forward? Keep up to date with the latest trends is another great way to make the most out of your time. The audiobook industry, in some ways, can be very fast-moving, and in other ways, there are parts that don't change quite as often. But you can stay up to date on both by attending conferences. And finally, it's just really a great way to reconnect with your passion for your career, your passion for your art, to reinvigorate yourself, and to just get yourself really set with that feeling of accomplishing things and ready to launch into your next project.
Yeah, we've always talked about audiobook work and creative writing as really a very solo mission. So this is a great way to break out of that habit, connect with your community, and learn something in the process. And
even for somebody like me, and I bet this happens to you too, having just come back from that producer event, I'm invigorated by getting out into the real world and meeting ACX narrators and producers. It really just energizes me and makes me want to come back and have all these awesome ideas for how to do cool stuff like this to help people out.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about ways or where to actually go to find conference options that are good for you. If you're an author, I'll take the author side of things. I'll let you know the narrator side of things. If you're an author and if you're looking for a smaller gathering, there are lots of great writers' retreats and workshops that are intimate gatherings that tend to focus a little bit more on your craft. You're going to want to look for these regionally in your area, talk to your peers and find out where they're going. But if you're in a writing, on a great writing phase, writers' retreats and small groups are wonderful ways to workshop your material.
Yeah, and on the narrator side, you might find speed dating events where you can go and do much in the classic speed dating style, meet with 15 to 20 different producers or people that produce demos or casting directors, and it's kind of a whirlwind type situation. The APA, the Audio Publishers Association, also runs monthly networking mixers here in New York City, and I bet there are other local regional groups where you can find to go just sort of get out of your booth and go meet people. And on the smaller side for narrators as well, small group coaching sessions where you work on either the tech side of things or the performance side of things, or even just one-on-one instruction, with a really qualified teacher that can help you on a very specific part of your craft. Are some of the examples of smaller type things that you can do as a narrator-producer. Jumping back over to authors and publishers, what are some of the big events that people could get involved with?
So some of the big events, these are so exciting. So In the fiction space, conferences and events tend to hew down based on the genre that you're in. So Mystery Writers of America, Romance Writers of America, Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America, BoucherCon for my thriller, and Thriller Fest for my thriller authors. So there are lots of great large-scale genre conferences. If you're in the nonfiction space, look for conferences that apply to your verticals. So if you're writing in the healthcare space, look for healthcare conferences that would apply and that would add your skills as well. So that's a great option. What about for narrators? What are those big conferences that are on the narrator schedule?
Yeah, so on the producer side, we find that by and large, you'll find voiceover conferences, right, that service the entire range of the voiceover industry. So whether you're doing commercial narration, you're doing animation, e-learning, documentary, or audiobooks. By and large, you'll find conferences that service all of those, and will have specific sort of paths depending on what industry you're in. So as I just mentioned, I recently returned from VO Atlanta, which is countrywide at this point, draws people from all over, but it's situated in, guess where? Atlanta. So it services a lot of the southeast of the United States. That's Voiceover is another event that ACX attends every fall. It tends to flip-flop between New York and LA, and last year it was in LA, so we'll see what they end up doing this year.
Yep.
And again, that services all stripes and pulls from a nice Hollywood contingent from the narrator community. And APAC is in New York. It's coming up in May, and it's, as I mentioned, the Audio Publishers Association. It's their conference. That's where the C in APAC comes from. And that one is audiobook focused. That is absolutely audiobook focused. It's in conjunction with Book Expo America and BookCon, which our author friends might want to consider attending as well. And as I said, that takes place in May in New York City.
Awesome. So let's talk about how to get the most out of your registration. You show up, you've registered. What do we do when we get there?
Well, I think we're going to start before we get there.
Oh, okay.
Because
our work starts earlier.
Yeah, to make the most out of your time and your money that you're spending. To be honest, some of these conference registrations for the larger ones can cost a couple $100s, and you might be inclined to travel to a space that's not exactly close to you. So you really do want to make sure you're getting the most out of the time and energy that you're spending. First piece of advice is read all the advanced conference emails and materials that they send you. I think we can have a tendency to get overwhelmed by email and filter a lot of stuff out. But reading all this stuff in advance will help you get the lay of the land. It'll help you understand what's being offered, and it'll give you the heads up about some of those more popular sessions that you might either need to sign up for in advance or just make sure you're there for early if it's got a superstar panelist or you just know it's a hot topic that's really going to have a lot of attendees.
Yeah, for my narrators, that's going to be director diagnostics, those speed datings that Scott was talking about. For my writers, those are going to be editorial pitching opportunities or critiques. So definitely read those materials, and if there are additional sessions that you need to register for, pre-register for, you want to read everything and do a bit of research.
Yeah, and specifically we're suggesting reading like the conference materials, speaker bios, panel descriptions, and all that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're going to want to create a rough schedule for yourself before you go to these conferences and figure out what it is that you're looking to get out of it. Go back to those goals that we just talked about. So what are the opportunities in the program that are going to set you up for the most time, face time if you're looking for networking or new gigs, most educational opportunities if you're looking to learn new skills. So head back to those goals that we just talked about.
Yeah, and so before you get there, hopefully you've done all your research. Once you get to the event, it could be incredibly overwhelming. There's going to be hundreds of people. There's going to be so much to choose from. You're going to have to make a couple decisions based on the research that you've done ahead of time as to how you want to sort of maximize your time, how you want to spend your time at that event. Talk to us a little bit about choosing a conference track and what that is, Hannah, versus just sort of free floating around and taking things as they come.
Yeah, so for the uninitiated, a lot of conferences will offer what's called tracks. This is what the programs are, this is what the workshops are, and some of the programming for authors tends to be focused on where you are in the process of publishing your book. So you'll find a craft track about the writing process. You'll find publication tracks about how to get your ebook made, how to get your audiobook made, and then you'll find marketing tracks. On the producer side, what we see a lot is that VO conferences tend to come down based on the type of VO that they're specializing in. So technical, animation, audiobook, commercial, like all of those will get their own programming tracks. So it's kind of like choosing whether you want to get a master's in a subject or whether you want to, go for that liberal arts degree and try everything. You can choose to really major in one thing and focus on just one track and learn everything you can, or you can free float and you can try and experience as much as you can, all in the name of those goals that we were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's really about where you are in your career and those goals that we told you to set at the outset and what you're hoping to achieve. In addition to the panels and the talks and the education that Hannah's mentioning, another aspect of these large conferences is often a trade show floor filled with exhibitors. ACX usually has a booth at the larger shows that we go to, so you might see us there. If you do, definitely come say hello. You might also find at narrator producer events, people with booth companies, people with microphone companies, other VO type websites that you could sign up for that aren't maybe audiobook specific, people offering demo services to help you produce your demo. It's definitely worth your time to figure out if there's an exhibit hall and to plan some time to take a trip through. Just to sort of learn what's on offer there and what's going on in a space other than the strictly educational space.
Yeah, I would say, don't avoid the vendor hall. It might feel like you don't want to get sales pushed on you, but I swear that's not what we're there to do. We really just want to meet you, and a lot of vendors want to answer questions. So if you have a very niche question, you haven't picked up the phone to call customer service yet, it's a great opportunity to connect with vendors that you might not have a conversation with. And we're very, very friendly and we love to talk, obviously.
Yeah.
So definitely don't skip over the vendor hall.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity both for you and for us to just make some of those personal connections. ACX being a website, if you're ever at an event that we're at, please come meet us, come hang out with us, and just tell us your story. We really love to meet the people that are on ACX.
And one of the last things for maximizing your time that I really love to do and love to see is participating in social media for the conference. So most conferences and events and networking events will have like a designated hashtag. And the conversations that are happening on social media, one, they reach people who aren't able to attend. So as someone who can't go to everything, I really appreciate seeing what other people are posting on social media about the event. It's like I can be there. But in the moment, too, it's a great way to connect with other people and find other people who are having conversations about the hashtag. Do you tweet at conferences?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I get tweeted about at conferences. I came home from VO Atlanta to find that panels that I had been on had, pictures had been tweeted, which is awesome, which is really
That's
fantastic. Awesome. And just following the social media conversation is also a really great way, again, just to stay on top of those trends, to understand maybe like which panels are filling up, which genres or which type of event at the conference are really attracting a lot of people. Maybe that's something that you want to go check out. The conference themselves might also put out some announcements about a new session that opens up, or hey, it's lunchtime, don't forget to bring your lunch ticket. So just be aware of what those are. Don't be a slave to it by any means, but just be aware and be plugged in.
It's another element that can help you maximize your time while you're there.
Yeah.
So let's actually talk about what happens when you are moving into some of these workshops and panels that we talked about.
Yeah, how can we maximize our time? How can we get the most out of this education?
So my first tip for when you're actually going to panels is to figure out if the conference, at the highest level, if the conference is going to be offering a recording, if they're going to be distributing handouts from the presenters after workshops, finding out what is going to be provided to you so that you can maybe take some of that weight off of your shoulders in terms of note-taking and be a little bit more present in the classroom.
Yeah, and speaking of note-taking, it's another important thing to think of for when you are attending and you're not just watching it on video after the fact or something like that. How do you prefer to take notes? Do you like to write with a pen and paper? Do you want to bring your laptop and try to type? That one doesn't work for me. I'm a really loud typer. Hannah will tell you, she sits across from me. And so I wouldn't bring my laptop, but I'd probably be a pen and paper guy. Or with everybody having smartphones in their pockets these days, you've got an audio recording device if you want to record some audio of the panel. Just be polite to the panelists and to the event. Record audio for personal use and without permission, not for like distribution or anything like that.
Definitely. But they make, if you're sharing shorter clips on social media, I know that people really love that. So don't distribute the whole recording of a panel, but maybe a few seconds, of something really impactful. I love that. Also, ask questions. If you are in the comments or in the chat, hopefully you're asking questions now too. We love it when we get questions. Usually when you go to a panel, the person hosting the panel or the panelists will indicate whether they're going to take questions throughout, or if they're going to, hold your questions till the end. But we love getting questions during our panels. So write them down, and at the appropriate moment, put your hand up. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, we're there. That's why panelists are there, to help you learn. And they've got sort of their outline for what they're going to talk about. But if there's something appropriate that you're curious about, it's absolutely appropriate to ask about that. I would just say, try to have a question that's good for the entire audience. If you've got a really specific question about like your personal experience, I think you would get more out of asking that question after the panel. I know both Hannah and I love to get approached by people after the panel or at our booth. So just stake out some of that one-on-one time if that's what you feel you need in that moment.
Yeah, I don't be afraid to come and approach a speaker afterwards, even just to thank them for their advice. We absolutely love that. And yeah, if you have a niche question that applies to you, maybe I'm not in the vendor hall, absolutely come up and ask me. And if I don't have anywhere to be, and I usually don't, let's go get a coffee and talk about it,
Yeah, that's why we're there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that leads perfectly into our next topic, which is breaking the ice at conferences. As we mentioned, you're going to go to an event that has other people, right? At least a few other people, and probably a lot of other people. And I don't know that my actor friends are the shyest people in the world, but there's all stripes of people on the actor and on the author side. So we just wanted to cover a little bit of advice for how to get yourself out there, how to transition from your more solitary environment like your booth or your writing space out to the conference world at large. So what are some tips that we have for people in that regard?
Yeah, so I have the perfect formula for you to create your elevator pitch, because I find when I'm meeting strangers, if I can introduce myself quickly and give myself a little bit of personality and then turn the question back around to my guest, I find that they love to chat and talk about themselves, and it's a really great way to break the ice. So I combine credibility, like why you should listen to me, my passion, and then a little bit of personality, and I try to keep it in under 30 seconds. So if you can combine all three of those things in less than 30 seconds, I find that's the perfect elevator pitch.
So we're not in an elevator, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh gosh.
Let's hear it. Ready? Hi.
Hi, I'm Hannah Wall. I've worked for Audible for about 6 years, but I've always spent my career in the indie publishing space, and I love authors and I love books. And I love what audiobooks can do to the listening experience. I actually traveled here from New York City. I left my husband and my 2 doggies at home, and I miss them so much. Where did you travel from?
I actually came here from Hoboken, New Jersey, where I have a wife and a beautiful little daughter. No dogs, unfortunately. But I've been at Audible almost 10 years now, and I'm just such a fan of the acting that is brought to audiobooks and the way it elevates the form. I personally play drums. I play music around New York City, and I'm really excited to be at this event, and I'm super excited to buy whatever you're selling now. Right? That's how this works.
And now we're having a conversation. It was that easy, I swear. So try it at home. Try it in the comments. Give us your elevator pitch, credibility, passion, and personality in 30 seconds or less. I challenge you to try and do it.
I think it's a perfect formula. But some other ways that we can get people out of their comfort zone. Some other tips that we can give people for getting comfortable with all of these strangers that you might not know. Take whatever opportunity you can just to introduce yourself. The person sitting next to you at the panel, if you're in a room with a couple dozen people in the audience, just turn next to them. I wouldn't maybe jump directly into your elevator pitch, but just hi, maybe ask about the other person, or maybe go for it. Maybe jump directly into your elevator pitch.
Or ask, what workshop did you just come from?
Right.
Or if you've all just come from the same workshop, maybe it was a keynote address, what did you think of the speaker? So use the space around you to create conversations. I feel so lucky at California Dreamin'. I was about to sit down to breakfast by myself, and I was just like, well, I guess I'll just work while I eat my breakfast. And some lovely ladies called me over and insisted that I not eat by myself. They shared their cake. We chatted.
Cake for breakfast.
Cake for breakfast.
All right, I
That's
like it.
another great benefit of conferences. It just made me feel so welcome and so a part of the group, even though I felt like I was the outsider.
Yeah, so you've got like a human element there and a business element where there was a connection made there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really great moment.
I like that.
Andy Arndt, in one of our previous ACX University episodes, Beyond the Booth, Monetizing Your Voice, those are my jazz hands, gave us a fantastic tip that we both love for just getting yourself out there, which is she's an actor. Act like an outgoing person. Yeah. Act like you're really confident at this conference and you know exactly what you're doing and how you're going to handle yourself. Authors, on the other hand?
You know what? You got to do the same thing. The tip still applies. So if you are if you're not comfortable, if you're feeling like a wallflower, maybe put on one of one of your character's hats and pretend like you are that character. If you have a confident character in your book, try and embody some of the qualities. You wrote this person, so I know that those qualities exist deep down inside you. So just kind of put on that actor hat too and play a confident person. Yeah.
Yeah, and as Hannah mentioned earlier, figuring out your dining, there's going to be 3 meals throughout the day, maybe some after hours stuff. Just sort of figuring out if you want to spend that time with other people, great option to do it. Or just if you need a moment to yourself to kind of recollect, which is something we'll get into a little bit later.
There's a lot to be said for self-care.
Yeah.
And I think if you're at one of these conferences and you're becoming overwhelmed, don't feel guilty. Don't feel like, oh, I've got to get the most out of my time here. I've got to stay down on the floor. If you are just tired and there are too many voices, take a second to go back to your hotel room, find a quiet spot in the restaurant, and just take a moment for yourself.
Yeah, and that dovetails perfectly with the last piece of advice, which is try everything, right? Don't get overwhelmed, but also try everything.
It seems contradictory.
No, but I mean, I think it's be willing to try everything, right? It's have an open mind, and you never know where you're going to meet somebody interesting, where you're going to find your next gig. You never know at what after hours parts of the conference you might do some networking. Just be open-minded.
Yeah, I think, if there are things that you would do in your normal routine, like workout or
do yoga.
Do yoga in the morning. A lot of conferences will have runners groups. They'll have yoga groups in the morning. There are late night options too.
If that's also part of your routine, which is going out and partying, which I think can be a great part of your routine. VO Atlanta just had an 80s dance party night, which was super fun to go to. I know Hannah wanted to bring her neon headband and scrunchie. Leotard, that's what it was, right. I did not bring my leotard. You're welcome. But it's just, go, have fun, meet a lot of people. Only caveat, don't go overboard.
Yes.
Don't be that person that got drunk and danced with a lampshade on their head. And
you are still there to attend the
yourself
conference.
And everybody's talking about the next morning.
Yeah. So try everything. You never know who you're going to meet at karaoke and sing next to. And actually, I think that's a really great point is just a sidebar for a second, you never know who you're going to be next to. So every moment that you're at the conference, from the moment that I feel like from the moment I leave my house to the moment that I come back to my house, I'm at the conference, because you never know who you're going to meet. And every person on your plane might be going to the same conference as you, the person in line for coffee, the person in the cab line. It's a great opportunity that you might meet people anywhere.
And it's also just something to be aware of, where if you're pre-coffee in the morning, if you're feeling a little grouchy or you're tired and you're rushing, I'm sure you're all beautiful people who handle themselves professionally in all aspects, but we've all had those moments. Just be aware that somebody you grumble at on the coffee line might be the director interviewing you at your first session at the event.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just something good to keep in mind.
Yeah. So we are making the most of our time. We're trying everything. We got to the conference. Let's talk about how to pack like a pro.
Yes. Set yourself up for success again in the suitcase
in
area,
the suitcase
field.
department.
Sure.
So what are you bringing to a conference? How do you dress when you go to a conference?
So I always go for business casual.
Okay.
I figure that
like this.
Yeah, similar to this. Maybe not like a light colored pair of jeans. I'm not sure if the audience can see my jeans. But yeah, business casual, something that you're comfortable in, but that looks professional. Don't overdo it. Don't get all stuffy. But maybe don't go there in like ripped jeans and like a sweaty, stained t-shirt and stuff like that. You are there for your career, for your profession. Be comfortable, but look professional.
I love that tip. And one of the things that I love to see at conferences is if an author or narrator group has branded apparel, their personal brand. And I'm not talking about your Tommy Hilfiger t-shirt, guys. I'm talking about if you have a great logo or if you have a group that you're trying to promote. I love seeing folks in branded apparel at networking events. I was at Romantic Times a couple of years ago, actually, and I guess I saw this t-shirt in passing and didn't really think anything of it. And then I saw it again. And the second time I saw it, I was like, wait, okay, I already saw that shirt. What is that shirt? And leaned in, and it was a narrator group. And it was narrators who were attending this romance conference, and they all had the same t-shirt on. And all of a sudden, I'm paying attention to that brand because they're all wearing the same t-shirt. So if you've got cool branded apparel, networking is a great place to wear that.
They caught your eye.
It
for
did,
sure.
for sure.
And Hannah touched on a little kind of secret hidden side tip there for narrators, which is in addition to thinking about going to narrator-focused events where you can learn and network, narrators and producers can consider going to writing events where they might meet authors and publishers, where they can talk to them early, sometimes before books get all competitive and everybody's auditioning for them, it can be a really good opportunity to stay up to date on the writing trends in the genres in which you're working, and also to meet some people that might want to give you your next book.
Yeah,
so that's sort of like a little side tip
I like
hidden
it.
in the middle of this episode. Comfortable shoes.
Oh my
How
gosh.
important are comfortable shoes?
I can't stress this enough. So yeah, you're like, oh, I'm going to workshops all day. I'm going to be sitting. You'd be shocked at how often you're not sitting when you're attending, trade shows, conferences, and events. You're going to be walking a ton, and so comfortable shoes are going to make all the difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, your dogs will be barking.
Yes.
Hannah's dogs will be barking back home.
All
in
the way
New York
back
City.
from New York.
They'll hear you. We'll touch on this a little bit, I think, in our next slide, but make sure to bring layers and a nice, good, like, versatile bag with you, down to the actual show itself from your hotel room or whatever.
I'm always cold in conferences. I am.
And so Hannah likes to bring like a light sweater. I will bring a sport coat sometimes. Just always good to have the option, and it saves you, the bag and the layers save you from having to run up and down to your hotel room and missing that panel, or skipping out on lunch because you had to go get something.
You had to go get something. I hate that. I like to be all the way, present in the moment, and that's just a versatile bag is a great way to do that.
Yeah, and something finally you might want to put in that bag is just, if you're doing some of those extracurriculars we mentioned earlier, gym, pool, stuff like that, just make sure to pack it with you overall, so that you can sort of stick to your life routine. You can do the things that are important to you in and amongst all of this education, so you don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, you want to try and keep as much consistency as possible.
So
let's talk about what's in our backpack.
what is in Hannah's backpack?
What's in my
Hannah's,
backpack?
Like virtual.
My virtual backpack. It's very little. And I can't stress that enough. It should be pretty small. It's got to be something that you're going to wear with you all day. But I usually keep health supplies, so headache medicine, tissues, hand sanitizer, because hopefully you're shaking lots of hands. And a snack, because a 200 calorie protein bar is going to go a long way. Nobody likes a hangry conference
that can
attendee.
Make or break your day, or other people's day sometimes, the people you interact with. In addition to the health supplies, the note-taking stuff that we've mentioned earlier, if there's anything you need beyond pen and paper, if you bring a computer, make sure you bring your charger or a backup battery. If you're bringing like a handheld recording device or your phone, again, charger or backup battery. Don't have your juice run out right in the middle of a session.
Yeah, that would be bad. I also recommend comfort supplies. So a reusable water bottle will go a long way towards making sure you're hydrated throughout the day and also save the environment. So find that water fountain and fill up and stay hydrated. Lip balm is also another great way to, again, make sure that you're staying comfortable throughout the day. Hopefully you're doing a lot of talking when you're meeting people, so you're staying nice and moist in the lip area. And lastly, just that light sweater, because I'm always cold.
Again, with the light sweater. or a blazer is fine too. It doesn't have to. I don't want you to say, oh my God, I have to wear a sweater to this event and it's in Las Vegas and it's like 4 million degrees. Yeah, that would be the exception.
The most important supply for your bag.
Networking supplies. That's probably going to be a huge part of why you're at this event. So whether it's a business card, whether it's a USB drive that has a demo or some clips on it, whatever your calling card is, make sure you bring them and bring plenty of them. One tip I like to tell people is if you have a business card, consider getting like a QR code on it that people can scan with their phone. That's that like square style barcode. And that can link directly to your author website, your narrator website, your book on Audible, your ACX profile. If it includes your bounty link, that's a great way out in the real world to do some bounty marketing to get those bounties on top of your royalties. Any other tips there in terms of like networking supplies?
Yeah, I would say if you're an author, bring a single copy of your book, because again, we're using this itty bitty book bag. It cannot be too full. I don't want you carting around books. If you're doing a giveaway, that's one thing. I would try and leave them in the hotel room until you absolutely need them, but don't bring multiple copies of your book to the conference, because it's just going to weigh you down.
Hannah will take all of them.
I will.
Hannah, if you bring multiple copies and Hannah will just take. Hannah loves free books from these conferences.
I'm a swag hoarder. That's something we didn't really touch on earlier, but swag at conferences.
We have two very different opinions of this, I think.
I like swag. I'm sorry.
I like swag, but I have nowhere to put it. So I look at it and I wave at it like lustfully, I guess, and I just say water bottle. I'll let Hannah take you home.
Oh no, yeah, I always need another water bottle. I always need another book. But so if you are like me and you are a hoarder of swag, either plan for it or visit the business center at the end of the conference and ship that stuff home. So you're not carrying it in your backpack. You're not getting that overweight suitcase fee when you get to the airport when you're ready to leave.
And then once you get home, you'll have all the water bottles and chip clips and koozies
I ain't mad
and
about it.
sweatshirts that you need. So I think that is getting close to wrapping up where we're at with conferences and all these events and stuff.
It's time to head home.
You've gone to the conference. You've gotten all your swag. You've learned a ton. You've networked a ton. How do we make sure that everything just doesn't fall off once we get home? What are we doing immediately and a little bit longer term once we get home, just to make sure that we're making the most out of it?
I think one of the most valuable things you can do is follow up with your new connections. Go ahead, shoot everyone a short note on LinkedIn, or if Facebook is your preferred medium. But I really love sending people a quick note on LinkedIn. And one of the things that can help you do that actually is with those business cards we just talked about. So after you meet someone, I love to grab my pen out of my wallet and write a quick note about who I just met, maybe some identifying details. And then when I get home, I have that business card and I can remember exactly who that was, the conversation we had. So when I'm sending them that note to connect on LinkedIn, they know exactly who I am too.
That is so impressive. I got to tell you, I met a narrator who I've done a bunch of work with at VO Atlanta, the last conference I was at. She was asking me immediately about how's my daughter doing, remembered her name, asked me about playing drums, and I was blown away. And I said, how did you remember all this stuff? I don't think I've seen you face to face in a year. And she said, well, at the end of every conference, I go back and I think of who I met and I try to write down a couple identifying details about them. And then next year, or the next time I think I'm going to see them at an event, what she'll do is she'll go back to those notes and she'll study up on them for the people that she thinks she's going to see. And it blew me away, her professionalism, her just preparedness. It really impressed me to the point where I'm talking to you about it and using it as an example.
I think impressive is the only word for that. I think absolutely everyone should take that note and start doing that right away.
Yeah. Moving on, social media discussions, as we mentioned during the conference, will continue throughout after the conference, whether it's following a hashtag for the conference, whether there's a lot of conferences have their own apps nowadays, or take advantage of like a space within a conference app. They might have like private Facebook groups for people that signed up for the conference. A lot of times they'll drop links to those videos that they filmed at the panels in there, or just follow up with additional educational or promotional opportunities. Definitely take advantage of those and keep your finger on the pulse, at least for a little while after the conference is over.
Yeah, I love that. And another way to kind of get involved, and we talk a lot in ACX University about content calendars and how, as someone who's self-promoting, you really need to have things to say. Consider recapping the event that you just went to for your blog. If it's appropriate for your audience, go ahead and write a quick summary of what you took away, what you learned, what you're going to do next, and go ahead and share that in your blog or your newsletter or your Instagram. I think that's a great way to kind of keep it going and have some great content. Yeah, hopefully you took some pictures, some fun pictures throughout the weekend. It really is just a great way to let your fans know that you're a real person and you're doing fun stuff and that you're trying to make your craft better for them. I think that's a pretty cool message. Yeah. So once we've gotten all of our connections out of the way, what should we be doing next to get the most? Again, the conference doesn't really end when you get home, does it? No. And so first, or not first, but spend some of your time focusing on your connections, your networking, the other people that you've met, and then spend some of your time focusing on yourself and how you're going to further your business and your professionalism coming out of the conference. I would say organize the things that you've learned and your action items, maybe put them into short, medium, and long-term sort of goals and how you can play them out. If there's a tip that you really loved that you got and you can implement it right away, like some update to your website or a blog post idea that you want to do, I think that's something that you can roll out there fairly quickly. But set yourself a schedule for medium and long term and how you're going to achieve some of those goals that might be a little more complex and take a little bit more time to get to. One of the things I want to caution you against when you get back from a conference, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed and feel paralyzed by the amount that you've learned, maybe feel deficient because you're not doing all of the things that they've talked about in the conference. And I cannot stress enough that you have to tell that little monster to go away, that you are good enough and that you just need to start breaking these things down into small things. And small wins build up to big successes. So just because you have a mountain of homework to get through, that you've got a ton of connections to make, don't let that stop your progress. You have made so much progress by going to this event and by meeting new people and by learning new things. So to start taking little bite-sized chunks, just like Scott said, to move yourself forward.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, just take a little bit of time for yourself as well. After you've come back, I mean, from this conference, you've likely traveled. You certainly have a lot of laundry to do. Traveling can really like stress or knock a lot of people out.
Yeah.
It's totally okay to just lay on the couch and listen to your favorite audiobook all day or watch Netflix, stream a show. Sometimes we will take a day off after we come back from a conference just to sort of like get acclimated back to our lives so that we can then launch into the next phase of whatever work we're trying to take on and really make the most of it.
Yeah, I said it before and I'll say it again. Self-care is so, so important. So take a moment to yourself. You've accomplished so much. And just take a second and relax.
Yeah, I think that self-care note is a great note to end on. You've been
Yeah.
practicing self-care by educating yourself, watching us today,
Good job.
by going to a conference, whatever the next conference you go to is. Well done. Great job. I think thanks so much for checking us out today. We're
Yeah.
super happy to tell you about all this conference information. Tell us in the comments which conferences you like to go to, where you'd like to see us, and check us out next time on ACX University.
Yeah, don't be afraid to come say hi. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.